Hello friends, welcome to another episode of Fire Emblem Discussion. Today we're responding to the comments on the video, are there too many FE characters in Smash, featuring FS Smash. So if you haven't watched that video, the link will be in the description, go check that out first. We had a fun discussion. So first off, we have Fox Life 63, who says, the question that should be asked is, why are there so many clones? Roy makes sense because Melee was rushed. Lucina has no excuse. Sure, she dressed up like Marth at one time, but Sakurai could have tapped into something that made Awakening unique in the series. Chrom I understand because of the last minute entry for Ultimate, but I would rather have Marth with us. Would rather have Marth with Roy as a clone and have 5 reps than have Lucina and Chrom be clones. The thing with clone characters, or now we're calling them Echo Fighters, is they don't take as much time to develop. So a lot of people get upset about Lucina or Chrom being in the game, whereas they should just see it as a bonus character, more or less, because the time that went towards making Lucina was a lot less time spent than went to making characters like Piranha Plant or Incineroar, these other new characters that they needed a lot of time put into them. Not only did they need new character models, but they also needed move sets. They needed to be balanced. Whereas like Lucina and Chrom, they needed a new model, but it was still based on some other character, and then most of the animation is basically the same at that point. I mean, I'm no expert in game design and making games, so I don't know how much work actually goes into that. But I think there's too much thrown into like, oh, they're clones, so they're wasted space, whereas they're clones, so they didn't take as much effort. So really, there wasn't any wasted time, and we still got another character in the game. I think that's how we need to look at Echo Fighters, rather than a more negative light that a lot of us shine on them. However, I do agree that we don't need so I don't know. I guess I'm gonna sound wishy-washy here. We don't need this many clones. I understand what you're saying. All I'm saying is I don't think clones really took away from the game as a whole. And I think really just enhances it. I personally like the idea of Echo Fighters. I think it's fun. But thank you, FoxLife63, for your comment. Next, we move on to Ninja Bunny, who says, I feel like Fire Emblem should go the way of the Piranha Plant. Way of the Piranha Plants. I don't know why that was that's a good sentence. It makes me laugh. Sure, you can keep Martha, maybe Ike, but I feel like the better picks for Smash characters lie in the more obscure characters. All the FE reps in Smash feel the same because they are the same. Smash isn't getting creative enough with their picks. Why have Chrom, who is completely unoriginal in every possible way, when you could have a character like Lewin? We've already got plenty of fighters with swords and counters, but we don't have any characters that channel the wind as their primary way to attack. I like where you're coming from, and I agree to an extent. Smash is all about bringing characters that are iconic together and are really important to their respective series together. And I think Fire Emblem has essentially done that or the characters from Fire Emblem that are in Smash are those characters. Marth definitely, Roy definitely, Ike for sure. These characters that are so iconic to the franchise, that are so recognizable, and are so important to not only their respective game, but to the series as a whole. I think it's important to remember that Smash is a game of all-stars. Sure, we have the Piranha Plant, but he's one of the longest standing enemies in all of Mario. He was in Mario 1, and he's been in like every Mario game since. So I see where you're coming from, and say like we should be like Piranha Plant and use more obscure characters, but I don't think Piranha Plant is obscure. He's one of the most he's up there with Goombas and Koopa Troopas as the most recognizable enemies in Mario. So while I see where you're coming from, I don't necessarily agree with that, Ninja Bunny, but I appreciate your thought, and we'll get into this in a second, where it would be nice to see characters that are a little more original, but I think we need to remember that characters need to be so iconic. They need to be so important and recognizable, and that's why they're in Smash. It's not because it's based on more than just like, oh, they could be an interesting character in Smash, or we need different characters. They need to be recognizable. People need to look at these characters and not say, who the heck is this guy? You could get away with that in Melee back in the day, but more recently, if a character gets added to Smash, and Smash is so mainstream now that if people don't recognize them, they're like, what the? And if they look them up and they aren't like the main character of a game, they're like, "What the freak are they doing here? This is stupid." I don't know. It's a careful line they have to walk. It's a tight rope that they need to stay on without falling either way of getting these interesting, cool characters that could have interesting movesets and whatever, but also having characters that are recognizable and but making them too unoriginal. I mean, making them too original. Not, I mean, no, too unoriginal. It's a hard thing, and not everybody's gonna be happy with every character in Smash. But thank you for your comment, Ninja Bunny. Next, we have some sarcastic mage who says, "Answer based on the title alone." Oh, I hope you watched the video, man. No, no, they just aren't as creative as they should be with them. Which goes to my point. What I'm saying is they need to be. It doesn't matter if Chrom could have had a different moveset than Roy, sure. And people probably would have been happier with that. So it's less the problem of who the character is, and more the problem of how it was executed in a lot of in many people's eyes. I think. I mean, having so many Fire Emblem characters is fine, but if they were more original, like Robin or Ike or Corrin, and we didn't have four characters that played very similar. I mean, the difference between playing Roy and Marth is huge now, especially since like airspeed is totally different. Roy's drift in the air is insane. He moves so quick. Some quick thoughts about that. Anyways, yeah, make him more original. I understand that. Next, we have probably Nick, who says, "There are too many Fire Emblem characters. I liked how Fire Emblem was first introduced in the West through Martha and Roy's inclusion to Melee, and I wish some of those Fire Emblem character slots were replaced with characters from more obscure game titles." Again, we're getting into this where us fans of the series, of course we want the more obscure characters. I would like absolutely lose it if like Gray or Tobin got added to Smash, or if Oscar or Boyd got added to Smash. I'd be like so happy. But most people would be like, who the frick are they? Like they wouldn't care, you know? Continuing with Nick's comment, he says, "I'm really happy that I was introduced to Fire Emblem through Smash, but it would be cool to have an experience like that again. The same thing happened with the inclusion of Pit and Brawl. I would have never picked up Kid Icarus Uprising if Pit wasn't in Brawl, and I'm in the same spot. I wouldn't have picked up Icarus. I wouldn't have picked up Uprising if it weren't for Pit being in Brawl. I would not have played Fire Emblem ever if it weren't for Roy and Marth and Melee. But I think I think a lot of us are missing the point here, that Smash characters aren't meant to be these obscure characters. They're meant to be the most iconic characters in gaming and in Nintendo history. It originally was just Nintendo history. Now it's branching out. You know, with characters like Snake and of course Sonic and that other guy, like freaking other people, Cloud. I feel like I'm forgetting someone that I wanted to say there. Nah, whatever. Moving on. Thanks probably Nick for your comment. Next we have Samuel Cron, who says, "I think overall Fire Emblem representation in Smash has helped the series, and it was because Ike was in Brawl that I learned of Fire Emblem. I was going to get Brawl, but then I saw Ike jumped ship quick and got Radiant Dawn instead. I don't think there are too many Fire Emblem characters, but I do think they need to diversify a little. Get a Lance Wielder, someone like Ephraim, an Axe Wielder, etc. Aside from Robin, all of the Fire Emblem representation are sword wielders, and as much as I like swords, I would like to see them cover the other weapon types in Smash representation." You see, this is fine. I see where Samuel is coming from, and he's not necessarily complaining about the characters that are in Smash already, but he's just saying, why can't we have more, just diversity? You know, and he brings up Ephraim, which is a good point. You know, that's a main character of the game, really iconic character in Fire Emblem. Maybe not everyone who sees that is going to instantly know who they are, but if you look up Ephraim Fire Emblem, Sacred Stones is going to pop up, and he's going to be on the cover of the game. It's easier. It's like better for the Smash that way. And it would be a Lance. You know, it'd be really cool to have different weapon types in there. You could even say the same for like Hector and other main characters in the series. So, yes, Samuel, I agree. Thank you for your comment. Okay, moving on to Random Rayquaza 2011. Who says, My problem isn't that there are too many Fire Emblem characters. My problem is that there are too many sword characters. Meanwhile, we have a game like Persona 4 Arena Ultimax, where characters have a bow, lance, axe, a chair. The reason why Robin, Lucina, and Corrin are in the game is because Nintendo was trying to promote Awakening and Fates. I felt that Chrom was kind of unnecessary because we already have representation from Awakening. They could have saved that slot for a Three Houses character or Alm/Celica, since Shadows of Valentia came out. We're still gonna get a Three Houses rep. I am banking on we're gonna get an E3 DLC character reveal, like 100%. So in the next week or so, we're going to know the next DLC character, and I would not be surprised if it was Byleth or Edelgard or any of the other important characters from Three Houses. But continuing, he says, I also agree that Etika was pretty controversial. Okay. Now people think of Fire Emblem like it is a joke. One tweet I saw on Twitter was someone asked what Nintendo franchise they would bring back in exchange for ending a popular Nintendo franchise currently, and a lot of people want to end Fire Emblem, and some of the reason was because of Smash, which is so sad. If people would just, like, I understand strategy games are for everybody, but Fire Emblem is, as far as strategy games go, Fire Emblem is like about as simple as you can get. It's like base strategy game, and especially like FE7, like, could be your first one and you do fine. It makes me so sad that so many people dislike the series, and a large part of it is the representation in Smash, and I'm not really sure how they fixed that. I feel like they have the most iconic characters in the series in there, and maybe they could have been more diversified and more interesting, use different weapons or whatever else. Like, why does Robin even use a sword? Like, freaking just make him 100% 100% a magic based character, and he would have been more interesting too. There's a lot of things I could have done differently, but in that regard. But moving on, thank you so much for your comment, La Random Rayquaza. Next we have Charlotte Owell, who I still don't know if I'm saying your name right after all this time, but I'm going to keep trying. Fire Emblem doesn't have the representation people think it does. Mario and Pokemon both have like three or so more characters, and Pokemon got about 30 Pokemon outside of playable Pokemon. It was talking about Pokeballs and whatnot, and characters in stages that appear in the background. And then Charlotte actually brings up something interesting about stages, where Fire Emblem honestly has some of like the lamest stages. They could have stages that are like really iconic moments in the series, but instead they just have like generic arena, generic castle, other generic arena. But I don't see why we don't have seen like stages from really important moments in the series. I'm trying to think. So from Awakening, you could totally have a battle like on top of Grima's back or something. That could be a stage. Or from the Tellius games, you could totally have, the fight, like the what's the castle? Is it Nados castle? Is that the castle where Nados, where you fight the Black Knight? I can't remember the name of the castle. That castle, you could have all manner of different places, and I feel like they kind of dropped the ball on that, but whatever. That's fine. But thank you for your comment, Charlie. Next we have the great Riek, who says, in quote, "Why does Marth have an axe, and why is Roy called Ellawood?" End quote. If that wasn't me in 04, I think a lot of us relate. Next we have Joseph Elis, who says, I want Byleth from Fire Emblem Three Houses to be Smash Ultimate DLC. You might be getting your wish. Your wish may come true. And then to close it all out, and I think this kind of wraps everything we've talked about up into a nice package, and kind of takes everybody's thoughts and puts it all together into one very, very simple statement. This is from TAC SMG fan, or is it Tax Mug fan, or is it Tac SMG fan? Either way, thank you for your comment. Who says, too much swords. I just want no swords. And I think that's how a lot of people feel. We want characters that feel different from each other, rather than four characters who feel very similar and whose movesets are basically the same. Those being Marth, Lucina, Roy, and Chrom now. You know, I see a lot of people, and I understand why you want, like, why isn't Hector a character rather than, you know, throwing another sword character like Chrom in there? Why don't we have Ephraim instead of Lucina or something, when we already have all these sword fighters in Fire Emblem and from Fire Emblem and Smash? So I see what you're saying, and I guess my personal opinion is I agree with you to an extent that we should have more diverse characters, but we also need to remember again that Smash is about iconic characters. It's about icons of Nintendo history. And if we're talking about icons of Fire Emblem history, Marth, obvious. Roy, obvious at this point. Lucina, for sure. Robin, of course. Corrin, to a more casual fan, for sure. I think of more hardcore fans, like, Corrin sucks. But either way, super recognizable. Ike, are you kidding me? Ike is one of the most... Everyone loves Ike. I mean, partly because of Brawl, and I understand that, but, I mean, still, everyone just loves Ike. They think he's so cool, and they're right. Ike is just a cool character. Show me characters that are just as iconic as those characters, and those are the ones that should be in Smash. I'm not saying they don't exist; they for sure do. Characters that are just as iconic as Ike, Martha, and Roy. You know, give me Hector. I'm actually surprised no one said Lynn in here, even though she uses a sword as well. But I'm surprised no one said Lynn. But anyways, and Ephraim, of course. Give me characters that are just as iconic but use different weaponry, and I'm okay with that. But I am honestly against, however much I love the series, I am against including more obscure characters into Smash, because it just doesn't fit the theme. It doesn't fit the game. So I hope I'm not being like super controversial here when I say that as a Fire Emblem fan, especially. But yeah, there's no place for Garrick in Smash. There's no place for Rutger in Smash. Too obscure, even though they're important to their respective games and they're cool characters and a lot of people like them, they just aren't iconic enough for Smash. Anyways, that'll do it for me this week for our response video. Make sure to like and comment on this video. You know, let us know what you think. And of course, make sure to subscribe for more Fire Emblem discussion. And if you made it to the end of this video, you probably kind of like my content. So share one of your favorite videos with your friends, other people who play Fire Emblem, people who want to get into Fire Emblem. Share my content with people. Let's grow this community, and let's have a fun conversation constantly going. I'll try to facilitate it the best I can, but we still just need more people in here. So thanks for watching, guys, and I will catch you next time.